Вітаємо всіх учасників, вітаємо від імені команди Еразмус плюс офісу в Україні, від всієї спільноти Еразмус плюс в Україні. І щиро раді вас бачити віртуально сьогодні. Дуже шкода, що не можемо обійняти всіх, як це ми робимо завжди під час наших інформаційних тижнів в Україні, в Києві. І сподіваємося мати в майбутньому таку можливість. Ми працюємо з вами сьогодні в двох частинах. Перша частина у нас має робочу мову англійську і друга частина українську. В першій частині до нас долучилася координатор програми Еразмус плюс від виконавчого агентства з питань освіти, аудіовізуальних засобів і культури з Брюсселю Європейської комісії пані Белен Сісо. І так само вона може бути одним із ваших проєктним менеджером, саме вашого проєкту. Тому дуже важливо, щоб ви з нею сьогодні познайомилися і безпосередньо вже далі будете співпрацювати активно протягом всіх 3 років виконання проєкту чи 2, в кого який період проєкту. Отже, я зараз переходжу на українську мову і будемо англійською мовою. І англійською мовою ми ведемо першу частину і будемо працювати з презентаціями. Презентація буде доступна десь хвилин за 15 пані Белен Сісо вже на сайті в розділі новини, там, де є новина цього заходу нашого з вами. І там будуть з'являтися всі презентації сьогоднішнього дня протягом дня. Отже, переходжу на англійську мову. Very warm welcome to all partners and welcome all partners in Erasmus Plus community, Ukraine and international. We really hope that you all stay safe and healthy and made a wish to St. Nicholas a few days before, and hopefully the miracles already start happening in your life. And in fact, perhaps some miracles for your life would come true during actually your Erasmus Plus. We really sorry and it's pity that we cannot hug you all and welcome you all in Kiev offline. And we send you our virtual hugs and congratulations as winners of the very tough competition in the 2020 call for proposals. We are honored today to have Belén Sisa with us as the coordinator of Erasmus Plus project for Armenia, Azerbaijan and Ukraine from the Education, Audiovisual and Culture Executive Agency, Brussels, European Commission, and to work with you today and to guide you within the program frameworks, within the program rules, that you start your project successfully. Before we go to Belén and Siso, I would like to highlight the key beneficiary of Erasmus Plus program in Ukraine and key partners of Ukrainian universities is the Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine, and that all projects in capacity building in higher education should fit into reforms in higher education. And it means that we all have to work hard to make changes within the quality of higher education. And that's the key goal and overall goal of the cooperation within Erasmus Plus capacity building projects. We would like to invite to the welcome speech Andriy Vitrenko, the Deputy Minister of Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine. And hopefully he already joined us. Yes, we see that he's now online. Andriy Vitrenko, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, dear Svetlana. I'm very glad to see all of you, all our colleagues. Dear ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine, I'm glad to welcome you to the webinar for the winners of European Union Erasmus Plus projects in the field of capacity building of higher education. The impact of the various activities of the European Union's Erasmus Plus program in Ukraine is indeed enormous. Yes, it is currently the only program with a systemic approach to building the capacity of Ukrainian higher education. For future reforms in accordance with the laws of Ukraine on education, on higher education and the association agreement with the European Union. The impact of Erasmus Plus projects on the development of higher education potential is important and sustainable for both institutional and national improvement of the Ukrainian higher education system. The Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine is pleased to welcome the project teams that are winners of the Erasmus Plus trend on capacity building in higher education in 2020. We wish you inspiration for the effective implementation of the planned results of the projects and invite you to cooperate with the Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, the Deputy Minister. And we hope that in the second part of the day, we'll hear also the priorities where the project could fit into reforms and to help the modernization of the higher education. And in fact, on how to cooperate closely and more efficiently with the team of the Ministry of Education and Science of Ukraine. And we really very much look forward to this session in the second part of the day. Thank you very much and look forward to see you and colleagues in the second part. And let me now to pass the floor to Belen Enciso. And we are really very much happy to welcome her within today's day and to welcome her on behalf of Ukrainian Erasmus Plus community. So Belen, the floor is yours. Very warm welcome.
Thank you very much, Svetlana. Nice to see you through the screen. Dear Deputy Minister, dear authorities, project representatives, and of course, the NEO colleagues. Some of you know me already. My name is Belen Enciso, and I'm Project Officer at the Executive Agency for Education and Culture and Audiovisual in Brussels. And I'm Project Officer, among others, for Ukraine. This means that I will be the contact person of the majority of the projects present today, the projects that have been selected under this call for proposals. First of all, I would like to say that I'm extremely happy that I can participate in this conference. And also I'm extremely happy that this meeting can take place overall, because I think we have to be proud that in spite of the difficult context that we are facing, that we find the energy and the time to organize this meeting, to participate and to attend. So I think I should say a big thank you to all of you, to the organizers and to the participants. This meeting, besides being a technical meeting, where lots of information will be shared on the sound implementation of your project, is also a kind of a celebration. So we are celebrating today the success of the Ukrainian higher education institutions in the recent selection process. So congratulations to all of you. It is not easy to get there. It's a very tough selection procedure, but Ukrainian participants have shown since the first call in 2015 an increased interest in the program and in capacity building, and also an increased success. So my congratulations are also extended to the Ukrainian national authorities that has, since the beginning, have supported the action, supports the selection procedure, support the implementation, and also support the sustainability and the further use to the results of the projects. And these congratulations are also extended to the National Erasmus Office team, which supports the projects in the everyday work. Erasmus, as you know, is the FAR program of the European Union. So Erasmus is full of positive connotations and positive experience. When you say Erasmus in Europe, since 20 years already, people think always about studying abroad, mobility, exchanges, learning experiences, international exposure, broadening your study field, broadening the research, for instance. So the Erasmus program has certainly changed the life of millions of Europeans, and Erasmus Plus is even more. This plus is more, better, bigger, more impact, etc. And in particular, this plus behind Erasmus is because under Erasmus Plus, these nice opportunities of studying abroad, mobility, exchanges are extended to other countries outside the European Union. So this plus means that Ukrainian institutions, Ukrainian individuals can benefit also from these enriching opportunities. Indeed, since 2015, more than 100 Ukrainian higher education institutions have enjoyed these opportunities and have modernized curricula, have introduced innovative teaching methods, have equipped labs, and have established academic and administrative centers like quality assurance centers of student services at the institutions. So the project teams that are participating today in this meeting are only increasing these statistics of the participation of Ukrainians. I wish you all lots of success during the next 3 years. And I hope that your project might benefit you as individual, but also your institutions and the Ukrainian society as a whole. So I'm looking forward to contribute to this by working together in the best implementation of your project. And I thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Valen, for the welcome and for the congratulations and greetings to the winners. It is really the tough competition every year, and to win, you should be very innovative and also very creative, and as well as the prioritized and linked to the reforms and linked to the key strategic regulation within your universities in order to make further development of your universities. And we're really happy that there are 10 projects within winners, which represents over or about 50 project teams from different organizations all over Ukraine. And in the second part, we will meet also the all projects within the video. We have 5 videos already, and they are already on our website in the news part. And you can have a look into this, you can watch this video in the break between the sessions to see and to make acquaintance with some project teams already. And we are happy to welcome the newcomers today and also experienced partners. We have a good balance between newcomers and experienced partners to exchange the experience and to learn from each other in terms of the project management and grant management, as well as the key challenges on how the teams cope at the end with all the challenges facing. And especially we would like to highlight the 3 winners, the 3 coordinators who are really very brave teams. They would take the responsibility for the overall project on behalf of Ukrainian part and will coordinate the multinational teams. And these are the Lviv National University, Ivan Franko, and Lviv National Polytechnic University and Zaporizhia National Polytechnic University. So very warm welcome, and really wish you good luck and are ready to provide the helping hand during all your process. And we'll work together furthermore for the successful implementation of your project. As well as the partners, that's everything has just started for some of you already, for others in January next year. But it means that we have a lot of preparation work to do, and we will learn today on how to work on it. So with this, not to keep you longer, let me pass the floor to Belen and Ciso for the presentation on the key rules and key recommendations from the executive agency on how to implement the project successfully. So Belen, the floor is yours.
So first of all, and before starting with the technicalities, I would like to congratulate the Ukrainian team that have, all the Ukrainian teams that have won this very competitive selection process. So a big congratulations from Brussels to all these teams, being coordinators or partners. And then I like to start my presentation with this image of the iceberg, just to show you graphically that your proposal, we will talk about your proposal later on, but that you see graphically what it means, your proposal. Just your proposal is actually just the tip of the iceberg. But 90% of the work to be done in order to implement the project is influenced by the project environment. So any percentage which is not under control of this project environment will affect the project implementation. So what is this project environment? What is the 90% that will determine a lot the implementation of your project? For instance, the current pandemic will be one of the characteristics of this project environment. Depending on in which way the pandemic moves, your project will have to adapt more or less, etc. But you also have to work with different institutions which are coming from different countries, different cultures, also different individuals with different personalities. You also have different currencies, different time frames, different languages. So all these aspects will certainly influence the implementation of your project. And what we are going to see in the next slides are different things that could help you manage and control this environment in the best way, together with us, together with the agency, so that your proposal can be implemented in the best possible conditions. So this is the list of topics you see in the presentation, the list of topics that we are going to try to cover now very quickly, because I would like to leave some time for your questions. We will go through project management issues, amendments to your grant agreement, monitoring, main things about the budget, about the reporting, and about the dissemination and visibility rules of the agency. Before I start each of the points, I want to make a very clear statement. This is an advanced meeting. Let's say this is an advanced information. As you know very well, each project that has been selected in 2020 will be invited to participate in the grant holders meeting that will take place in the last week of January. I think you have probably received already like a save the date. It will be an online meeting split in different sessions during 2 days. And you will also have a bilateral meeting with your project officer. Normally it will be me, but some projects could be with another colleague. So this meeting is the real kickoff of the 2020 projects. And in that meeting, we will share all the formal, official, and really true information. Whatever I'm going to say today is, of course, valid, but if there are changes, you have to know that the real information, the real formal reporting modalities, for instance, will be shared in the January meeting. And what I'm giving today to you is just advanced information. So we are very quick in Ukraine to launch the kickoff meeting. So just that you keep this in mind, okay? So we start, when we saw the picture of the iceberg, I told you that we will talk a lot about your application, because your application is the reason why your project was selected. And also, that's the reason for which other projects were not selected. So as a result, it means that at the final report stage, what we will do is to analyze what are your results and what are your achievements based on what you promised in the application. So this document is extremely relevant. Also, it forms part of your grant agreement and is the core of the partnership cooperation modalities. So what I have to confess is that we find very regularly partners and partners from the partner countries that are not even familiarized to the application. They have not they have not contributed to the development of the application. They have just joined a consortium with an application that was prepared by someone else. And they don't even know very well the application of what they have to do, what are their responsibilities, etc. So I really want to insist on the importance of all the Ukrainian teams to be informed and to be involved from the very beginning, to get a copy of the grant application and to read it carefully and understand what are the responsibilities within this consortium. Also, the the most relevant part of the application should be presented to the local bodies at the university in order to get them on board, and to be sure that it's compliant, for instance, that the things that are promised in the application are compliant with the institutional rules. From a contractual point of view, the partner countries, the institutions in the partner countries have exactly the same responsibilities as the coordinator. It means what you have signed. So I said that the application is part of the grant agreement. This grant agreement that has been signed with the agency is a multi-beneficiary grant agreement. And this means that the responsibility for the project implementation is equally for the coordinator than for the partners. But of course, this is only legally. In terms of implementation, partner universities in Ukraine must be conscious that their role is much more important than the European partners. We expect from the Ukrainian partners that you own this application, that you own this project, and that you implement it really according to the needs of your institution, to the needs of your society, and that you don't let European partners manage your interest, because the main beneficiaries of the grant agreement must be the Ukrainian partners. Okay. I think we can go to the next slide. So just to talk about the regulatory framework of your grant agreement and of your application. It's just an overview to let you understand that basically you will have to work and comply with the three different set of rules. You have the rules of the European Commission and the capacity building action. You have also the rules of your own country and the countries you work with. And you have also the rules of the institutions you're working with. And you will have to implement your project taking into account these three different sets of rules. And in order to do this, you will have to prepare your working arrangements with your partners in the consortium. You will have to find your recipe to combine all these rules in order to make it feasible for you. Of course, when we talk about the agreement, I can reassure you, whatever you have think and develop in, I don't know, in the second half of 2018, probably, it has passed a lot of time since you have developed your application in 2018, and you have submitted, you have gone through the selection project. Now you have signed your grant agreement. This is almost 2 years later. And of course, the context has changed a lot. Even the needs could have changed a lot. So we do understand this fact, and we accept that your grant agreement is modified through an amendment. There are some administrative changes that occur, changes in staff, for instance, legal representative of the university changed the bank account, etc. There are also some operational changes. And now in the pandemic context, we are seeing a lot of changes that are needed in the operational part of the project, changes to the work program in order to make some activities that were prepared face-to-face in order to convert them into online activities, for instance, of changes in the equipment needs, because universities need then more equipment that is that allows online meetings or online teaching, etc. There are also some budget changes that are needed, because in some cases, well, in the majority of the cases, actually, the travel costs have been overestimated for the travel capacities that there are now in our countries. So many projects will like to change some of the headings of the budget. So for all these operational changes, we try to be flexible, but we have to look at them on a case-by-case basis, and it has to be very well justified. How to proceed when the partners, the consortium, identify a need to change the grant agreement, a need to change the work program or the partnership. They have to inform the coordinator, and the coordinator is the contact point with the agency. We will ask for supporting documents in order to be sure that the request is very well justified. And then if the change is accepted, you will receive an amendment, which is a formal change of your grant agreement. But be aware is that this is the last information I want to share regarding the application and the grant agreement. Not all the activities that have been foreseen in your application are automatically eligible. So before taking any action, please verify that there are no doubts of eligibility on the specific activity. So please contact your project officer before you start any activity or any purchase when you have an hesitation if it's eligible or not. It's not because it is in the application and the application is part of the grant agreement that we are automatically going to accept the cost. Okay, now I think we can change the topic and we leave the application and the grant agreement and we go to project management issues. So as I just said, that legally the coordinator and the partners have the same responsibilities, although in the implementation, the role of the partners from the partner countries, I mean, the partners from Ukraine in this case, is much more important because the project is yours. The project is for the benefit of Ukraine academic staff, Ukrainian students, Ukraine universities. It's not for the benefit of the Europeans. And in many cases, the coordinator is an European university. However, being European or being Ukrainian, the role of the coordinator is to be the contact person with the agency in order for communication, but also for reporting issues and also for the management of the funds and to have like an oversight role of the implementation of the activities. The partners are obliged to report and support the coordinator and work in full transparency with the coordinator, but they are responsible for the actual implementation of the activities in their context. And they have, in particular, a very important role of contributing to the dissemination of the results and the usability of the results in the Ukrainian context. In this sense, I also would like to say that the role of well, I have already explained that the project main beneficiaries are the partner country institutions. So in this case, the Ukrainian universities. And I would like to give a lot of attention to one point. When we are talking about Ukrainian beneficiaries, we are talking about Ukrainian institutions. So the capacity building for higher education projects are interinstitutional cooperation projects, and only organizations can be beneficiaries, no individuals. I know very well, and this is the logic of the cooperation, that the cooperation between institutions very often starts with cooperation between two individuals. For instance, a professor in Ukraine has contacts with some peers in Germany or in Poland or in whatever other country, and it's through this personal contact that the project starts, and then they involve the institution. But it is very important that you keep in mind that our action address not the individuals, but it addresses the reform at institutional level. And this has a lot of consequences. First of all, you cannot implement a project as an academic, isolated in your department with your collaborators, with your PhD students, etc. We ask you to involve from the very beginning the central services of your institution. You have to talk to your international relations department, you have to talk to the finance department, you have to get on board the management of your university, you have to disseminate internally to all other departments what you're doing and what are the main results in order to promote that they can be used by other departments, by the whole institution. This also has a second very important aspect, which is we work only with institutional bank accounts. The grant of the European Union must be transferred to the partner accounts. And this means to the institution account, to the university accounts. It is forbidden to work with individual bank accounts. So you as individual should not get any money from the coordinator in your personal account. This will be declared ineligible at the end of the project. There are some exceptions to some very difficult countries in the world where they don't have a banking system. And there's the only way to get professors involved in a project is to pay to their individual accounts. But this is not the case in the Eastern Partnership and the many other countries on the capacity building. So in Ukraine, the institutional aspects of the cooperation project is also reflected in the financial management. And the institutional accounts must be used for all kinds of transfer, being these staff costs, travel costs, cost of stay, etc. So I was talking when we saw this pyramid of different rules that the project will have to translate and to work with, the EU rules, the institutional rules, and the country rules. We saw that in order to implement the project, managing all these rules correctly, the consortium is requested to develop a cooperation agreement. That's what we call a partnership agreement. This is these are the internal working modalities of the consortium. So this is just the result of a meeting that you have to hold with all your partners, where you will have to tackle all the different projects of the implementation, being this financial management, how the costs are going to be reimbursed, but also how internal communication is going to happen, what happens if there are different opinions or different, if they are, how you say, if you don't agree, if there are disagreements in one or other activities, the roles and responsibilities of the partners. So all these elements that will make your partnership work must be covered by a document, which is called partnership agreement, and which is a compulsory document. You have to provide your copy of the partnership agreement to the agency within 6 months after the signature of your grant agreement. And this document, well, there is I don't like to call it a template. There is a model in our website, in the beneficiaries space, that you can of course use, but it's not a template. You don't need to use this. You can also start from scratch and use your own recipe, your own working modalities. What is very important for us is that you ensure that all the partners' input is taken on board. You can sign this bilaterally, the coordinator with each of the partners, but in terms of transparency, we really recommend that you sign a joint document, which is valid for all the members of the consortium. This document must really take into account the national constraints and the legislation that applies to each partner institution. I would like to talk shortly about monitoring, about what we do understand as monitoring. So if you look in Wikipedia or in a dictionary, monitoring is described as a management tool and continuous process which aims to help the project in achieving its objectives. So in this sense, the agency, my department, and my work is to monitor the implementation of your project and how the project is achieving its objectives. So the agency in Brussels, it's true that we are organizing the selection process. It's true that we are signing the grant agreement and we are making the payments. But our role is not only that. Our role is not only to be the bank of the Ukrainian universities in order to give you the grant. Our role goes much further than that. Our role is to help you implement your activities in the best way, so that at the end of the day, you will have the results that you expect, that you foreseen at the very beginning. What we do in the agency, we call it desk monitoring, because we work here in Brussels from our desks. And what we do is to support the project coordinator with our correspondence, giving advices, giving recommendations, explaining the rules, for instance, and evaluating the progress through your reports and through our daily contact. We also have another kind of monitoring, which is called field monitoring. And this part of the monitoring activities has been requested to be carried out by the National Erasmus Plus office where they are. Like in Ukraine, we have the colleagues, Svetlana and her colleagues, which are mandated by the European Commission to carry out these field monitoring activities. In other countries where there is no NEO, then is the European Union delegation who takes care of this. So it is very important for you that you know that your project is going to be monitored at least once and probably twice by Svetlana and her team. The aim of this monitoring visit is to check that the project is on track, to check in particular that partners are fully aware of their responsibilities and they are fully involved in the project. And in particular, these field monitoring visits are not like police visits or audit visits, not at all. They are support visits. So the intention of these field monitoring visits is that you're able to ask for help, to ask for support, and that the team in Ukraine, in Kiev, or myself are able to provide support and advice in order to first let your project implement in the best way. That is the aim of all of us. And second, to prevent penalties at the end of the project due to weak implementation. So if you have problems from the very beginning, we have to tackle them from the very beginning in order to prevent these penalties. Now we go to the most interesting part of the presentation, probably, which is the budget issues. So I have some basic principles of the budget that you probably know very well. So you know that they are in your budget, in your project budget, there are 5 budget headings. Some budget headings have ceilings. So like staff cost cannot go beyond 40% of the total cost, etc. Then you know also that the 5 budget categories, 3 of them are reported in unit cost, and 2 others in actual cost. So there's something that is very important for you to understand, is that independently on the way the budget has been calculated and will be reporting, being this unit cost or actual cost, what you have to keep very well in mind is that the grant awarded is not the same as the total cost of the project. So this grant awarded involves a certain co-financing from the participating institutions. The principle of the grant is not to cover 100% of the cost, but to give a help and motivation and impulse to your project. But the universities, the consortium, should contribute in one or other way. There's also another principle of the European funding, which is the non-profit principle. So this budget cannot serve to make any profit to any individual and to any university. Whatever profit is made by the project, it should be reinvested again in activities for the project. So just a short explanation on what is the difference between unit cost and actual cost. So as you know, for the actual cost, equipment and subcontracting budget heading will be reported in actual cost. There we look at how did you use the grant. So I bought one computer, it cost me €1,000. I give you the invoice of the cost of the computer. So simple is the actual cost. The unit cost is much more complicated because it is not going to see how you use the grant, but what did you achieve with the grant. So in order to declare your staff cost and your travels and cost of stay, we don't just need to have a timesheet showing that the Professor X and Professor Y have been writing a report, have been working for the project during 3 days. We need to see the results of this work, and we will evaluate if the results of this work correspond to the number of days that you have given, if they are overestimated or underestimated. That's the difference. So for unit cost, you will not need to prove how you have used the budget, but you will have to prove what are the results of this cost. What is the triggering event? What is the academic activity that has occasioned this cost? And very synthetic for you to understand that unit costs are only used in 2 occasions: when you calculated your budget at the very beginning in 2018, and it will be used again for reporting purposes in 3 years' time. What happens in between during the 3 years of your project, this is your responsibility. It has nothing to do with the unit cost. We can go later on, if you want, in the questions and answers in more detail. But it means that you are not obliged to reimburse staff using the unit costs that are given in the guidelines. The unit costs that are given in the guidelines are used for the preparation of the budget and for the reporting of the budget. But in between, the partnership must agree in a partnership agreement on what will be their reimbursement modalities. And they don't need to be exactly the same as in the program guide. We are entering into the reporting phase. So what will be, I know reporting is still very far because it will be at the end of your project. You're just starting, and I'm sending you in a projection of 3 years, but it's good that you already know what are the kind of documents that we will be requesting at the very end of the project, so that you start keeping them together from the very beginning. So for unit cost, so for cost of staff and travel, we need a series of supporting documents. As you see, some of them are the formal employment contracts, staff conventions, etc. But the most important supporting document that we need for this is the tangible outputs, the products. So I don't have enough knowing that Professor X and Professor Y spent 3 days working for the project. I need to have the result of what they achieved within 3 days. Did they prepare training? Did they prepare a meeting? Did they publish something? What do they do? Exactly the same for travel and cost of stay. I don't have enough with the travel ticket or with the hotel invoice. I need to know what happened during this mobility and what kind of activity was carried out during the mobility. For the actual cost, it is a little different. For the actual cost, we really need to have the invoices, the proof of payments, the formal documents related to tendering, etc. Okay, just very short on the rules of these both budget headings, equipment and subcontracting. For equipment, you have to know, you know already that the equipment, of course, is limited to the universities in Ukraine, not to other non-academic partners. Government authorities, NGOs, etc., cannot receive equipment. I know that you will come with changes in the list of equipment. Please note that these changes must be extremely well justified. I cannot accept that you're going to change your equipment because you did not foresee correctly at the beginning. So I need to have a very good justification why you're willing to change the equipment. I have to alert you that equipment that is bought at the very end of the project will be declared ineligible. We are already analyzing reports for 2015 and 2016 projects, and we have to declare ineligible the cost of the equipment that has been bought in the last months before of the end of the project. So please do organize your tendering procedure at the do identify exactly what you need, and do launch your tendering procedure as soon as possible. There is also no authorization possible, I think, for a second purchase of the equipment. You do a first and unique purchase of the needs of the project. And if after the purchase procedure, you have savings, this is not a reason to launch a second tendering procedure, to launch a second purchase. This will not be authorized. And also, it is not in your benefit, because this will talk a little bit later, but due to the exchange losses that you may have at the end of the project, because of the way we calculate the exchange rate, it is advisable that these savings that you have had in your equipment budget heading, that you keep them until the end in order to use them for these losses that you may have at the very end of the project. So please keep in mind, no second purchases. You identify the needs for the project and you launch your procedure for purchase of equipment as soon as possible. Then the subcontracting rules. You know, if you need to subcontract some tasks that must be very well justified and you are over 10,000 euro, you need to ask authorization to the agency. And if it is over 25,000 euro, then you have to comply with the national legislation. Okay, we are coming to the very end of the presentation. I'm going to talk only now about the reporting period and the exchange rates, which are two very important topics, in particular because there are big changes in relation to the past. So for the reporting period, you have to note that your project has two reporting periods. One, from the reporting period one is from the first month of the implementation of the project until halfway the project. For 3 years project is 18 months, for two-year projects is 12 months. And then you have a second reporting period, which is from month one until the end of the project. So the second reporting period does not start in the second half of the project, but the second reporting period starts again from the beginning of the project. Okay, so there are two reporting periods. And then there are two reporting requirements from the agency. We ask you to send us a progress report at month 18, so at halfway the project, or 2 months after. So you need to send us a progress report either in month 18, 19, or 20 of your project implementation. And then you need to send us a final report within 2 months of the end of the project. So month 36, 37, 38 of your project. How we are going to arrange the payments linked to this reporting. So you have now signed your grant agreement. You have probably received already, or you're going to receive very shortly, first pre-financing. The first pre-financing is 50% of your grant. So if you have asked for 800,000 euro, you will receive 400,000 euro. When you will have to submit your request for payment? Before, it was when you had spent 70% of the first pre-financing. But now the rules have changed. And now you have to request your second pre-financing 2 months after the end of period one. This means reporting period one was from month 1 to month 18. So you have to request your second pre-financing in the month 18, 19, or 20. No later than 20. If you have not spent the 70% of the first pre-financing, it doesn't matter. You must send your request for payment within this period, and you will be reimbursed pro rata. So you will not, if you have not spent 70%, you will be reimbursed a little less than 40%. Okay, I know it's not so easy, but I think the slide is very easy, and I hope that Svetlana will put it to your disposal so that you can consult it later. And then for the balance payment at the very end of the project, you will receive the remaining amount. So before it was 10%, now it's not any longer 10%. It will depend on the project. It will depend on your expenditure level until the progress report phase. Okay. And now the exchange rate. That's the second hot topic of the presentation. That will be my last slide. This involves also a change with the policy of the Commission in the past. Since last year, 2019 projects and 2020 projects, they have to comply with this rule. So we have seen that you have two reporting periods from month 1 until month 18, and then from month 1 until the end of the project. So what the way you have to calculate the exchange rate when using the Ukrainian currency is to find the average rate in the reporting period. So if you buy a piece of equipment in, let's say, February 2021, you will have to apply the average exchange rate from November 2020 until April 2022. If you buy this piece of equipment during the second reporting period, so in the month, I was going to say 30, but I told you the last months are not eligible. So let's say you buy it in the month 24, then you will have to find the average between November 2020 and November 2023. This will be the average rate of your second reporting period. So it means that you have to recalculate the exchange rate. I know it's very complicated. I know what are the tomatoes that you're going to throw at me is about the fluctuation of the Ukrainian money. But first of all, you have gains and losses. That's something that we cannot foresee. It is true that the Ukrainian currency is fluctuating. You can make some savings due to this, and you can also have some losses. The idea is that you create the unit cost approach, and the way we manage this budget enables you to create some buffer of savings. So it is good for you and for your project that you keep some savings in each budget heading. This can be done through the correct use of the unit cost. So not reimbursing the travels and the staff cost at the same level of the unit cost provided by the guidance, but creating some savings. And also in the equipment purchase, exactly the same. If you launch your tendering and you have some savings when you get the invoice, you keep this in order to be able to cover at the end of the project the exchange losses that you might have. And there is no obligation for the projects to spend all the grant. So you use the grant for your activities, but if you have savings, you just reimburse them to the commission at the end of the project. There is no obligation to spend until the last euro cent. Okay, it's better to keep a buffer, to keep savings in order to be able to cover the maximum. And if at the end you don't need it, then you can reimburse it to the commission. So now very quick, this is just on the visibility and the visual identity. You probably know it's part of your contract. You have a logo and a disclaimer that you have to use in all publications and in all communication. The logo is very easy. You have to use the emblem of the European Union and the name displayed in full, co-funded by the Erasmus Plus program of the European Union. This is the only and unique logo that you have to use. No other artistic or creative inventions of your IT department, etc. This is the unique logo you have to use. You have to use it in equipment, in your dissemination material, in your website, in your social media, in everything. And in order to have the correct logo, please visit the graphic design user guide that is published in our website. As for the disclaimer, this is just a text that must be added in the pages of the publications and studies, just to for all the materials, all the publications that are covered by the European grant, of course. Just for you to know that the fulfillment of these visibility rules, the logo and the disclaimer, is extremely easy, but please do it because it's a must. It's a grant agreement, it's compulsory, but your grant agreement is a contractual obligation. And unfortunately, it is subject to penalties. And we have had several projects in 2015 and 2016 where we have been obliged to apply this 20% reduction of the grant due to the incorrect use of the visual identity. It's a very easy rule for you to follow, so please do not forget. If you need to put an additional logo, it's better to put one logo plus than one logo that risk not to have a logo. It's very easy for you to comply with, and I say to you, unfortunately, we don't like to apply penalties. You can believe me, it's horrible work for us, but we are obliged. We cannot do otherwise if we see that you have not used the correct visual identity. So thank you very much. That's all for my part. I'm looking forward to your questions and answers. I know you have sent already some questions. I have probably replied to some of them during my presentation, but I don't know, Svetlana, if you want, I can go through the list and see if there are still some issues that were not replied.
Thank you very much, Belen, indeed, for the presentation and sharing the guidelines to our participants and to the partners how to implement the project according to the rules of the program. And I think that I would name some of the questions which were not covered. Then you would answer them, okay?
Very good.
And thank you to all participants who sent us the questions. They're really very helpful during the presentation, the preparation of the presentation. So I have the question about the COVID challenges.
Yes.
Due to COVID-19, is changes in the work plan acceptable, and what to do in case of changes? Should the coordinator receive ACA authorization for changes?
Okay, so yes, of course. Whatever change is going whatever change the project consortium has in mind must be authorized by the agency. Without an authorization, you will not be able to claim cost for any activity that has changed. Now, related to COVID, as I said already during the presentation, indeed, the context worldwide has changed a lot since you prepared your application and the reality in which you're going to implement your project. So we are being very flexible. We are accepting changes in work program, in equipment, in travel modalities, in budget lines. We are accepting lots of changes that are justified under the COVID-19 context. However, be informed that you need to justify these changes very good. It is not just that you have changed your mind. It's really, we really look at the coherence of the request in the context of the pandemic. Do not use the pandemic as an excuse to suddenly change your project. We really need to ensure that you are making changes to the work plan in order to better achieve the results in the current context.
Thank you very much. And a related question also, if travel and cost of stay will not be spent due to COVID, will it be possible to relocate the funds to other budget line, or will it lead to the reduction of the grant?
Really, it will depend on a case-by-case basis. In general, I think there will be an underspending of travel cost and cost of stay. I think it is impossible for a project to justify correctly the whole use of travel costs into another category. This is impossible because the travel costs are extremely high in the proposal. So we cannot possibly authorize the change of 200,000 euro travel cost into a staff or equipment or any other budget heading. So this is absolutely not possible. I suspect that at the end of the project, there will be savings made in the travel cost. But of course, part of these travel costs that are not used can be used for something else. But again, this must be very well justified. It's not because you are not traveling that you suddenly need much more staff hours to achieve your objectives. So it will really depend on the type of project and on a case-by-case basis. But you need to, again, to write to us and request a reallocation of the funds and justify it. And then we will see case by case.
Thank you very much, Belen. And so a few questions connected. One, is it acceptable that one person is in the working group of 4 projects? They're aware of the months, but is it possible, in principle, how it is considered by EC?
Well, this is very badly considered, to be honest. I'm very happy to hear that they are aware of the limitation in days per month and year. Of course, this is fundamental. I mean, this is the first rule to apply, is that you do not exceed the number of days that are eligible for us to participate. But I think participating in 4 projects means that you are like monopolizing lots of work, lots of information in one individual. And I don't think that this is a positive development in the Ukrainian context. It would be much better to teach other colleagues to disseminate the knowledge of this person and to be able to share within other people in the department. I think this will be much more enriching for the universities and for the projects. Now, legally, contractually seen and legally seen, there's no, in principle, if the days are respected, we cannot declare ineligible the cost of this person. And if we understand that there are no overlappings, etc. But I think from an operational point of view, the project could be penalized in terms, not financially penalized, but penalized in terms of quality of management, because it's not sound management that all the work from one university, for instance, is concentrated in just one person.
Thank you very much. And actually related one person may perform under 3 or 4 categories in one project. Should it provide different timesheets and staff convention for it?
Yes. Okay. Again, in theory, this is possible. In theory, one person could perform tasks under different staff categories. If this is the case, this person should fill in different timesheets and different staff convention for each of the categories. But please, let's be serious. It is very difficult that, for instance, a manager level, that's a rector level, that a rector will take the responsibility of being manager, being rector, also teaching activities, also technical stuff. So he will be doing the website of the project, and then he will also carry out secretarial tasks. No, this is not possible. A rector will have his management and will probably participate or could participate as an academic, giving some lessons. Again, a secretary can do secretarial tasks, maybe also technical tasks if it's a secretary with lots of technical knowledge, but the secretary will never be a manager of a project. So I think in reality, it's very difficult that one profile, one person is gathering 3 or certainly not 4 different kind of tasks. What we see very often is that a professor, academic staff of the university is reimbursed for its technical activities, but he also does some follow-up of the management of the project, like invoices, cost, etc. This is secretarial tasks. And then he is reimbursed on the one hand side as academic and on the other hand side as secretarial. This is possible, but more than 2 categories, I have never seen really this kind of example.
Thank you very much, very helpful. And a few more questions. Is Ukrainian audit company eligible to perform audit in case of Ukrainian coordinator as well as the EU coordinator?
Okay, so you have to look at there's a list of accredited audit companies, and this is the source of this information. You have to look. Being an Ukrainian auditor or being an European auditor, it does not make a difference. But please take into account that the auditor is not going to audit an university in Ukraine or the EU coordinator. The company is going to audit a project, and a project is made up of a consortium. So it doesn't matter that much from where this company is. It can be from anywhere in the world, but it must be an accredited, recognized company.
Thank you very much. And then the question about the sustainability. Must the project website be updating after the end of the project? If yes, for which period?
So this is really to be seen depending on the profile of the project. If it makes sense that, for instance, if the project website publish the results and is updated with information that remains relevant for the target public, even 10 years after of the project, of course, we would love that you keep it until as long as maximum. But you have to see that contractually speaking, you only have the obligation to keep your project documentation until 5 years after the project has been ended. In some other cases, what it happens, and this is probably better management of the information, is that the project website does not disappear, but is integrated into, for instance, the faculty website that is dedicated to the new master. Then the access to the project website or the access to the information that was previously in the project website is access to there. So you really have to see, depending on what is the content and what is the use of this project website, how long you're going to keep it, or if you're going to integrate it in something else. What I would like to say about the project website is that you should not take it just as okay, the commission said that we have to do a project website, we just do a project website, whatever, very simple, but we don't use it because we prefer social media. Given that you are obliged by the commission to create a project website, do please an effort to think about who will be using the information in this website, and try to look at this website not just as a contractual requirement from our side, but as something that could help your project to disseminate information. So make the right links to the other, to the participants, or make the right links to your target public. So ensure that you are putting there. What we see very regularly with the project website is that they just comply with the formal requirements of the project, the partners, the work packages, etc. But they do not, for instance, if you're creating a new curriculum in one university, well, this website should be a marketing mechanisms to recruit students. It's not just something to fulfill our wishes at the European Commission of visibility, etc. But it should also serve you to recruit your students for that master. And this is what we don't see. So it will depend really on how the website is conceived, how long that you have to keep it.
What are the common mistakes in the interim and final reporting?
Okay.
Just a few of them at least.
Yeah, okay. Well, first of all, unfortunately, what we see very often is that the report just copy-paste the information in the application without even bothering about changing the tense. So in the application, you always talk in future tense, like in these projects, we will create a curriculum on mechatronics. And then in the interim report, we still see the project, blah, 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 will create a curriculum. This is not, I mean, this makes no sense. We want to really read in the report, what have you achieved and what you have done. We don't want to just read again the application, because I have the application next to me when I read your report. So it's a pity that I see that the project has not made the effort to really report on what have been done, but they have just limited themselves to copy paste the program of the application. Then another common mistake that we see is that not all partners are involved in the reporting exercise. In many cases, the coordinator takes the lead and just do an overall reporting exercise without consulting all the partners. And this is a catastrophe, because as I said at the beginning, the project is of you, the project is of the Ukrainian universities, and the reporting is also of the Ukrainian universities. So you should be involved from the very beginning in the establishment of the activities, in the decision making, in the development of the partnership agreement, but also in the reporting. The draft of the report must pass through all the consortium, and everyone should provide their own feedback on what are the achievements in your department, in your university, in your region. And this is something that, for instance, an European coordinator do not know. So this has to really be filled in by different people, but all the teams involved actually. And then we have, of course, the part of the financial management in the reporting, which is sometimes very poor. And poor, I mean that the rules of the financial management are not respected. I'm not talking about ineligible costs because, well, this is more or less easy. But for instance, we see that a European partner a European coordinator of a European partner has foreseen a budget for its institution at application stage of 30,000 euro, but at the end of the project, they are claiming 60,000 euro, like this, without really any justification why the staff cost of this university in Europe must be increased if there are no additional activities. So we think that in many cases, there is a strategy of some partners to have a low profile during application and to put themselves with a low budget, and then increase their budget share. And at the time of the final report, they have increased sometimes 2 or 3 times the budget that was foreseen. We have seen this practice also, unfortunately, in some Ukrainian universities, and I have to say that we are not accepting this anymore, and we are cutting seriously from the reporting phase. We are cutting excessive costs that are not justified, that are increased from the application and are not well justified, being this staff cost, but also travel cost and cost of stay. So these are, according to me, the main issues regarding the reporting.
Thank you very much. And one question which is curious for majority of the universities: are there any projects penalized already?
Yes.
How many of them, approximately?
I think in 2015, if I remember correctly, there was about 4 or 5 projects penalized. 2016, we are dealing now with the final reports of 2016 generation, and they are more already than in 2015. Some of them have been penalized, as I told you, about the publicity. The publicity rules, the visibility rules, which is very stupid because it's very easy to comply with. But some projects made the mistake to publish things on hard copy without using the disclaimer, or they have used the wrong logo. They have used the old logo that we used to use in Tempus, for instance, and we are obliged to penalize. In some other cases, the cases for weak implementation, they are fewer, but there are also, unfortunately, cases of weak implementation, not in Eastern Partnership for the time being, but there have been a lot in Asia, for instance, because projects have promised to develop a new curriculum. And what they have done at the end is, for instance, 2 modules for a winter school or something like this. Of course, these modules are eligible, but you cannot claim the same amount of cost for the development of 2 modules or the development of a whole curriculum. So this has been considered as weak implementation because of not achievement of the promised results. I think in the case of the Eastern Partnership, we are unfortunately reducing the grants. We are reducing the final amount of the grants due to these issues that I commented before, that some partners are overestimating their staff cost at the end of the project, but we have not applied penalties on weak implementation.
Thank you very much, Belen. Very useful, and for all answer the questions. And I would like to highlight that we are going to perform also one more event for the beneficiaries after the Brussels event, perhaps in February or March. And then we would check, make a kind of sound check if everything is in line with what we discussed today. And also we're going to gather separately the coordinators of the projects, I mean Ukrainian coordinators of the project, in order to find out key steps and key challenges and success stories on how to implement the project successfully. So this is not the last meeting, and we also would be very happy and honored if Belen would join other events as well. If there is the possibility in time, of course, we understand everything in terms of the downloads. And in the second part of the day, we will repeat some information in Ukrainian language to make some more details and to stop maybe on some key issues on the implementation as well as the budget and as well as specific. До зустрічі в другій половині дня. Thank you very much, Belen, for joining us today in the first part of the day, and you're welcome to the second part to learn Ukrainian language.
That's a big challenge. So thank you for the invitation, Svetlana, and to all the Ukrainian participants, in particular for the Ukrainian coordinators. Please, I'm here in Brussels. You can always write me. You can send me your questions via email. I prefer to reply 20 times to the same question and ensure that you have got the rule and that you're going to apply it correctly than to find bad surprises at the end. So please be in touch. Contact me, contact Svetlana. Let's be in touch and let's make your project a success. So thank you very much, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot, and see you then soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.